Rayam Udirayat Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttama Sloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtiki. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gaurvani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschat Desha Tarine Panchakalpatarubhyascha Kripasantibhya Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasati Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna. So today it is Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 1 chapter 12 text 19. The learned Brahmana said, O son of Pritha, this child shall be exactly like King Ikshvaku, son of Manu, in maintaining all those who are born. And as for following the Brahmanical principles, especially in being true to his promise, he shall be exactly like Rama, the personality of Godhead, the son of Maharaja Dasrath. Text 20. The child will be a munificent donor of charity and protector of the surrendered, like the famous King Shibi of the Ushinara country, and he will expand the name and fame of his family like Bharata, the son of Maharaja Dushyanta. Text 21. Amongst great bowmen, this child will be as good as Arjun. He will be as irresistible as fire and as unsurpassable as the ocean. Text 22. This child will be as strong as a lion and as worthy as shelter, as the Himalaya mountains. He will be forbearing like the earth and as tolerant as his parents. Text 23. This child will be like his grandfather Yudhishthir and Brahma in equanimity of mind. He will be munificent like the Lord of the Kailasha hill, Shiva, and he will be the resort of everyone, like the Supreme Personality of Godhead Narayana, who is even the shelter of all of the goddess of fortune. Text 24. This child will be almost as good as Lord Sri Krishna by following in his footsteps. In magnanimity, he will become as great as King Rantidev, and in religion, he will be like Maharaja Yajati. Text 25. This child will be like Vali Maharaj in patience, a staunch devotee of Lord Krishna like Prahlad Maharaj, a performer of many Ashwamedha heart sacrifices, and a follower of the old and experienced man. Text 26. This child will be the father of kings who will be like sages for world peace and for the sake of religion. He will be the chastiser of the upstarts and the quarrelsome. Text 27. After hearing about his death, which will be caused by the bite of a snake bird sent by a son of a Brahmana, he will get himself freed from all material attachment and surrender unto the personality of Godhead, taking shelter of him. Text 28. After inquiring about proper self-knowledge from the son of Vyasadeva, who will be a great philosopher, he will renounce all material attachment and achieve a life of fearlessness. Text 29. Thus, those who were experts in astrological knowledge and in performance of the birth ceremony instructed King Yudhishthira about the future history of this child. Then, being sumptuously remunerated, they all returned to their respective homes. Text 30. So his son would become famous in the world as Parikshit, examiner, because he would come to examine all human beings in his um, search after the personality whom he saw before his birth. Thus, he would come to constantly contemplate him. Text 31. As the moon in its waxing fortnight develops the day after day, so the royal Prince Parikshit very soon developed luxuriantly under the care and full facilities of his guardian grandfathers. Text 32. Just as this time King Yudhishthir was considering performing a horse sacrifice to get freed from his sins incurred from fighting with king's men, but he became anxious to get some wealth, for there were no surplus funds outside of fines and the tax collection. Text 33. Understanding understanding the hearty wishes of the king, his brothers, as advised by the infathomable Lord Krishna, collected sufficient riches from the north left by King Marutha. Text 34. By those riches, the king could procure the ingredients for 3 horse sacrifices. Thus, the pious King Yudhishthira, who was very fearful after the battle of Kurukshetra, pleased Lord Hari, the personality of Godhead. Text 35. Lord Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, being invited to the sacrifices by Maharaja Yudhishthir, saw to it that they were performed by qualified, twice born Brahmanas. After that, for the pleasure of the relatives, the Lord remained a few months. Text 36. O Shaunaka, therefore, Lord, having bid farewell to King Yudhishthir, Draupadi, and other relatives, started for the city of Dwarika, accompanied by Arjuna and other members of the Jadu dynasty. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mataji.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Yeah,
Hare Krishna.
thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you, Mataji, for reading. Begin with prayer. Om Ajnana-Timirandasya Jnananjana-Salakaya Sattva-Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna-Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamini Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Satarine. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gauta Bhakta Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So we are continuing to discuss from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 12. titled Birth of Emperor Parikshit. So last week we saw the beginning of the descriptions of the Brahmanas predicting Maharaj Parikshit's future. So when Maharaj Parikshit is born, Maharaj Yudhishthir, he actually invites some Brahmanas to predict the future of Parikshit, because as a king, because you see, the reason Prabhupada writes in the previous purport why Krishna actually saved Maharaj Parikshit in the womb of Uttara was because he was the only descendant that can carry forward the activities of the Pandavas in the future, the last descendant of the Pandavas. So because he always wanted his devotees to rule the earth so that everyone is happy. So that is the theme, and we are continuing from verse 19 today. So the Brahmanas are continuing to predict, and they say that this child shall be exactly like King Ikshvaku, son of Manu, in maintaining all those who are born. So Prabhupada actually takes some keywords from this translation, like he will be like Ikshvaku, and he will follow Brahmanical principles, and he will be true to his promise, just like Lord Ram from the kingdom of Maharaj Dasharath. So Prabhupada picks these keywords from the translation and he expands in the purport. And Prabhupada writes that praja or living entity means not just human beings. Even animals and any living entity within a jurisdiction is called a praja or living entity. And the person who is in charge of the jurisdiction, the saintly kings, should give protection to all living entities to live and fulfill their terms of imprisonment. Imprisonment means we are all imprisoned within this body. Krishna mentions in Bhagavad Gita that we are like in a machine. Yantra danu yaya maya, Krishna says in 18th chapter. So like that, we are in a machine and we are imprisoned, but we are not aware. So saintly king needs to give protection, not just protection for the body, but the king should also try to elevate the consciousness of the people under him. And Prabhupada writes on this theme, and he catches the word Ikshvaku. It is the wonderful nature of acharyas that they give the importance from a Bhagavatam slok that we can't even perceive. So Prabhupada writes, the Vedic literatures are taught in higher planets also, because Prabhupada writes Ikshvaku. Why? Because Prabhupada says all the saintly kings, beginning from the king of the sun globe down to the king of earth, are so inclined by the influence of Vedic literatures. So the Vedic literatures are taught in higher planets also. And Prabhupada gives reference from the Bhagavad Gita 4th chapter 1st verse that the sun god received, Vivaswan received the knowledge from the Lord, and from sun god it was transferred to his son Manu, and from Manu came to Maharaj Ikshvaku. See how Prabhupada is linking to the translation. So like that, the descendants of the spiritual knowledge comes through the sun god, finally to Maharaj Ikshvaku. And Prabhupada writes, so all the Vedic literatures are current from the beginning of creation of the material world. It is not something that is created. Prabhupada then writes in some other purport, he writes that few people think that Bhagavatam is some new discovery. Oh, some Swami has come and introduced Srimad Bhagavatam. No. Vedic literatures are existing from the beginning of creation, and thus Vedic literatures are called apaurushaya. Apaurushaya means not created by human beings like us. It is existing right from time immemorial. And then Prabhupada, he explains about Manu, that we are in the period of the 7th Manu, Vaivasvata Manu, who received that instruction from the sun god. And then Prabhupada explains about the history of Lord Ram. We don't have much time, but Prabhupada gives pretty short synopsis of entire stay of Lord Ram's leelas within this earth. Like Lord Ram, he descended along with his plenary portion, all his brothers, and all of them appeared as his younger brothers. And he, in the month of Chaitra, on the 9th day of the growing moon, in Treta Yuga, the Lord appeared as usual to establish principles of religion and to annihilate disturbing elements. And later in the purport, Prabhupada also writes that Ravana's brother Vibhishan was also installed on the throne of Lanka after Ravana was killed. And Vibhishan was one of the brothers of Ravana, a demon, but Lord Ram made him immortal by his presence. right? Because Vibhishan was a devotee. Another lesson we can learn: we should never judge a person whether he is coming from a certain family, this family or that family. We don't know who's a devotee. Only Krishna can identify who's a devotee, or his pure representatives can identify who's a devotee. So never judge anybody. And then Prabhupada writes, Lord Ram also performed Ashwamedha sacrifices, and later on he disappeared after his Leela. And Prabhupada writes, the authoritative Ramayana was written by the great poet Valmiki. So if if at all we have urge and thirst to study Ramayana, we should study the commentary of Valmiki. Prabhupada writes. And in text 20, this child will be a munificent donor of charity and protector of the surrendered. And he will be as famous as the king Shivi, and he will expand the name and fame of his family like Bharat, the son of Maharaj Dushyanta, not the Bharat Maharaj in the 5th canto, but Bharata. There are different Bharatas, Prabhupada writes in the purport. So Prabhupada writes, a king becomes famous by his activities of charity, performance of yajna, and protection of the surrender. So whoever is surrendering to the king must give protection. This attitude of a king is called Ishvara Bhav, factual power to give protection in righteous cause, given by Krishna himself to all the pious kings. The Lord is all powerful and true to his words, therefore he never fails to give protection to his different devotees. The king, being the representative of the Lord, must possess this attitude of giving protection to the surrendered souls at all risk. Right? So a king or a person in a responsible position, because Krishna is all powerful, he gives protection to his surrendered devotees. Similarly, as a representative, the king also should do the same, not thinking that he is God, but as a representative of God. And that is where the history of Maharaj Shivi comes. We will read that in the 9th canto about Maharaj Shivi, how he was such an exalted king that he wanted to protect even the prajas, all the living prajas. Like there is an instant of Prabhupada. In short, he elaborates the pastime of Maharaj Shivi, how an eagle was there, the king of heaven who took the shape of a hunter bird eagle, and Agni, the fire god, took the shape of a pigeon, and they were fighting for each other because one was trying to hunt the other. And Maharaj Shivi wanted to protect the pigeon. He said, he told the eagle, if you want to take flesh from my body. So Maharaj Shivi was like that. He wanted to protect every single living entity in his kingdom. And then Prabhupada writes, Srila Narad Muni also glorified Maharaj Shivi for his great achievements. And then later, Prabhupada explains about Dushyanta, Bharata, and he mentions that Bharata, the son of Maharaj Dushyanta, was not less important. He is the son of the famous beauty Shakuntala, and Maharaj Dushyanta, who fell in love with Shakuntala in the forest, and Bharata was conceived. After that, Maharaj forgot his wife due to a curse by Kanva Muni, and the child Bharata was brought up in the forest by his mother. Even in his childhood, he was so powerful that he challenged even lions and elephants in the forest. So Prabhupada writes all these details, and he says further details are given from Mahabharata and Adi Parva. So the Kurus or the Pandavas are sometimes addressed as Bharata. Why he is addressed as Bharata is because due to being born in the dynasty of Maharaj Bharata, okay, the son of King Dushyanta. That's why they are sometimes referred to as Bharata. In text 21, amongst great bowmen, this child will be as good as Arjuna, and he will be irresistible as fire and as unsurpassable as the ocean. Arjuna is his Parikshit Maharaj's grandfather. So it is mentioned that Maharaj Parikshit is will be as great as Arjuna. And Prabhupada elaborates there are two Arjunas. Not many of us are aware, right? One Arjuna is the famous Arjuna from the Pandavas, and the other Arjuna is Kartivira Arjuna, who comes later in the canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. And but both were equally strong. So Maharaj Parikshit was equally strong, and he was expert in bowmanship with bows and arrows. And Prabhupada, in great detail, elaborates about Arjuna. We don't have time to go through all the points, but few critical points of the qualities of Arjuna that we can meditate on. So Prabhupada, in the beginning, he writes that Arjuna was born from Kunti and Indra, because Pandu could not produce children. Kunti Devi and Indra, through them Arjuna was born. So Arjuna is also sometimes called a plenary portion of King Indra. And later on, Prabhupada mentions Arjuna excelled everyone by his studious intensity until Dronacharya. Some important lesson that we can learn, that we should have intensity like Arjuna. Arjuna was very intense. Intense means he was very he wanted to learn everything very nicely, not just for the sake of learning. He wanted to be expert, not to show off that he's expert, but he wanted to please his guru. That is also showing intensity. Intensity means not just pleasing ourselves, but pleasing his guru, as Dronacharya. So Dronacharya accepted him as a first grade scholar. He was very, very dear to Dronacharya because he was so much intense in learning. Prabhupada writes, sometimes he will not even sleep in the night practicing bow. That much sincere he was. And Arjuna saved Dronacharya from the back of a crocodile. And the Acharya, being pleased with him, rewarded him with a weapon of the name Brahmashiras. So like this, Dronacharya became so connected to Arjuna because he excelled in so many things, and he also helped him in the enmity between Dronacharya and Drupada, the king Drupada, that Prabhupada elaborates in the purport. And like this, Arjuna, he goes and he pleases so many great personalities, and he gets so many different types of weapons, which he will eventually use. You see how Krishna's plan is, which eventually Arjuna will use in the battlefield of Kurukshetra. For example, it is mentioned that Subhadra's son is Abhimanyu, and the father of Maharaj Parikshit, the posthumous child. So Subhadra's son is Abhimanyu, and Subhadra is Arjuna's sister. Right? So Arjuna also promised all protection to a demon called Mayasura. That'll come in Mahabharata actually. The latter presented him one valuable conch shell celebrated as Devadatta. If many of us can really connect this to Bhagavad Gita, in the very first chapter, it is explained what are the different names of the conch shells that Krishna blows, Panchajanya, and Arjuna blows Devadatta. Right? So where this is Devadatta conch shell came from? Well, Krishna got it from Panchajanya himself when he went to save his guru's son. But Arjuna gets his conch shell from the demon Mayadanava. So some history we can connect to from Bhagavad Gita. And Prabhupada also writes how Arjuna pleased Lord Shiva in a fight, and how Lord Shiva gave him the Pashupata weapon that he could use in his fights. And then later Prabhupada writes, Arjuna also visited his father, real father in the heavenly kingdom, who's Indra. And while he was visiting there, Indra's consort was Urvashi at that point in time. And apparently, because Arjuna was so famous all over the three worlds for his prowess as a human being, Urvashi was obviously attracted to Arjuna. But you will see that's an important lesson that all of us have to learn. Even though Urvashi was very eager to be in touch with Arjuna because he was the strongest human being, Arjuna sustained his unimpeachable character by closing his eyes before Urvashi. He closed his eyes because he considered Urvashi to be his mother category. He did not consider Urvashi to be just another damsel in the heavenly planets or some other region. Because Indra was his father, he considered Urvashi to be his mother. Addressing her as mother of the Kuru dynasty and placing her in the category of the mothers Kunti, Madri, and Shachi Devi, wife of Indradev, disappointed Urvashi cursed Arjuna and left. Right? This is chastity of Arjuna. Arjuna is teaching us a lesson, right? How we should control our senses. All these great personalities, they know how to behave in time, place, and circumstances. And he is teaching by example. Prabhupada says every lady should be Mataji, except one's own wife. It is not a theoretical statement. We have to practically realize and apply in our life. And Arjuna is setting an example for us. While Arjuna was talking, so later towards the end, Prabhupada writes that this is a wonderful pastime. In short, Prabhupada writes, after the disappearance of Lord Krishna, the message was brought by Arjuna to Maharaj Yudhishthira. Again, Arjuna visited Dwaraka, and all the widow wives of Lord Krishna, widow in quotes, lamented before him. He told them all in the presence of Vasudeva Maharaj and pacified all of them. Later on, when Vasudeva Maharaj also passed away, he performed the funeral ceremony in the absence of Krishna. While Arjuna was taking all the wives of Krishna to Indraprastha, he was attacked on the way and he could not protect the ladies to his custody. See, Arjuna, who had so much prowess, who was admired all throughout the three worlds, Prabhupada finally writes, in fact, Arjuna himself will lament in the future pages of Bhagavatam, the first canto, the same Krishna who he will lament that I got all the strength from Krishna only. Because we are seeing right here that Prabhupada is writing that Arjuna was defeated when he was trying to protect the queens of Krishna. And Arjuna is feeling separation from Krishna. We will see in the next few chapters, this principle is being mentioned there. So Arjuna mentions that everything is coming from Krishna. I was able to do all these miraculous things because of the presence of Krishna. Otherwise, I cannot do. So similarly, whatever we are able to do as a service to Krishna, we should think that it is all coming from the blessings of the Acharyas and Krishna, not by our prowess. Arjuna is again teaching him. And then in 22, this child will be as strong as a lion and worthy as shelter as the Himalayan mountains, and he will be forbearing like the earth and as tolerant as his parents. So Prabhupada writes, one is compared to the lion when one is very strong in chasing an enemy, and one should be a lamb at home and lion in the chase. Prabhupada writes, because later we will see Maharaj Parikshit, he will actually be a nice king, but then when something happens to his praja, for example, there's cow and a bull pastime that comes in the 18th and 19th chapter, and Maharaj Parikshit becomes a lion. He wants to protect his praja or living beings within his kingdom. When he chastises the Kali personified, who's trying to act like a king, right? And then, Prabhupada also expands that he gave shelter as the Himalayan mountains. And Prabhupada writes, any spiritual aspirant will try to go and take advantage and shelter of great mountains like Himalayas, because it's a very conducive place for practicing spirituality. And Prabhupada also writes, parents are always tolerant to children for all sorts of mischievous activities. An ideal king may be possessed of all these qualities, and child Maharaj Parikshit is foretold to have all these qualities in perfection. Because he was forbearing towards his surrendered living entities within his kingdom. And then it is also predicted that Maharaj Parikshit in text 23 will be like his grandfather, Yudhishthira Maharaj and Brahma, who are equanimity in mind. Prabhupada writes very nicely that mental equanimity refers to both Maharaj Parikshit and Brahma. Not Bhishma, sorry, Brahma, the grandfather of all living beings. See, Prabhupada again, he connects two acharyas' different perspectives. Sridhar Swami, he mentions, the grandfather mentioned here is Lord Brahma. But Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur mentioned, oh, because the grandfather is Maharaj Yudhishthira, so he is the grandfather. So like this, sometimes you will have, in the same line of disciplic succession, two different acharyas have different realizations. But you see how Prabhupada is mentioning both. We have to respect both realizations of two different acharyas. Acharyas may have different realizations according to their bhav with Krishna. But we have to respect both. We should not say, oh, one is right, one is wrong. See, that is why simply by reading Prabhupada's books, we get the perspective of all different previous acharyas. That is the greatness of Prabhupada's purpose. And then both of them are recognized for representatives of the Supreme Lord. And thus both of them, Brahma and Yudhishthira Maharaj, have to maintain mental equanimity, being engaged in welfare work for the living being. Because Lord Brahma is also involved in creation and helping Krishna in this creation. And Maharaj Yudhishthira was a very renowned king. So both of them were engaged in welfare work. So Prabhupada writes, very important point, any responsible executive agent at the top of administration has to tolerate different types of onslaught from the very persons for whom he works. We cannot think that I'm in a responsible position, I will not get onslaughts in my life. No, it doesn't work like that. Prabhupada is saying any responsible person, it doesn't matter whether we are Lord Brahma or we are some king or president or anything, any responsible position within this world, we will have onslaughts on us. And Prabhupada writes, we have to tolerate. Prabhupada writes in Krishna book, the greatest test for a person is to tolerate provoking situations. Yes. And we have to tolerate, and we have to learn to tolerate from advanced souls. And so many points, we don't have time, it's already 7:30. And Prabhupada writes, he also mentions about Lord Shiva's glories here. And Prabhupada writes, because Lord Shiva is called Ashutosh, he fulfills the desires of his devotees very quickly. And Prabhupada writes, this is the excellent point, that Lord Shiva never denies any sort of gift to anyone. He is therefore most generous, although sometimes some kind of mistake is made. He quotes the pastime of Vrikasura demon, where Vrikasura wanted to get the benediction of touching anybody's head so that he can kill anyone. Lord Shiva gives him that benediction, but then he wants to touch Lord Shiva's head. Then Lord Shiva runs away from him, and Lord Vishnu comes in the disguise of a Brahmana and saves Lord Shiva. So of course, Lord Shiva is not an ordinary personality. Many times, in fact, all the time, he wants to give some benediction for even a demon. That demon finally was dying in the presence of Lord Vishnu. So definitely he got some benefit. So that is Lord Shiva's greatness. Even apparently when he's running away from a demon, he is actually helping the demon. That is the greatness of the greatest Vaishnava, Lord Shiva. And then in text 24, this child will also be as good as Lord Krishna by following in his footsteps. In magnanimity, he will become as great as King Rantire. So Prabhupada writes, foolish people do not know that the association is the cause of acquiring qualities. Sometimes, many times, Prabhupada's lines are very, very deep. Prabhupada writes, whatever we associate with, those qualities we acquire. It's not Prabhupada's statement. Krishna mentions in Bhagavad Gita. Prabhupada is reminding us that whatever qualities we want to imbibe, we have to associate with such things. If we associate with television, people who talk mundane things, then we will acquire those qualities. And association with fire makes an object hot, even in the material sense. Therefore, association with the Supreme Personality of Godhead makes one qualified like the Lord. See, Prabhupada is coming back to the translation. He is not speaking something irrelevant here. Because Maharaj Parikshit is compared to Lord Krishna by following in his footsteps. Because anyone who comes in contact with Lord Krishna gains similar qualities like Krishna, not in full, but in some minute quantity. Similarly, because Maharaj Parikshit was following the footsteps of Lord Krishna, he also gained the qualities. To follow the instructions of the Lord is to associate with the Lord. The Lord is not a material object whose presence one has to feel for such association. See, again, he's repeating the same point that we read in the 11th chapter, that it doesn't matter that Krishna has to be right in front of us. To follow the instructions of the Lord is also to associate of the Lord. If we can follow the instructions of Krishna from Bhagavad Gita, we are associating with Krishna, because Krishna and his instructions are non-different. It is quite possible to have his association simply by following his instruction, because the Lord and his instruction and the Lord and his name, fame, attributes and paraphernalia are all identical, being absolute knowledge. Lord and his dear devotees, simply by following their instructions, we are in touch with them always. Prabhupada said, there is not a moment where I have not been in touch with my Guru. This is Prabhupada's statement. His Guru Maharaj passed in 1933. Prabhupada established ISKCON in 1965. Over 3 decades, he struggled alone. He says, there is not a single moment where I have not been in touch with my Guru. This is what he's meaning here. That he is following his Guru's instructions as his life and soul. And then in text 25, this child will be like Bali Maharaj in patience and a staunch devotee of Lord Krishna like Prahlad Maharaj. So the descendant of Prahlad Maharaj is Bali Maharaj. And Bali Maharaj was a great authority in devotional service, Prabhupada writes. and he sacrificed everything to Krishna, Atmanivedan. He gave everything to Krishna in the form of Vamanadev. Even when he even went up to a point where his guru rejected him because he was warning him, don't agree to whatever Vamanadev is asking, because he will take everything from you, because he is Supreme Lord. Don't listen to him. He rejected that instruction, because a guru is supposed to take a disciple closer to Krishna, not take away from Krishna. So he followed the principles of dharma, because dharma means we need to get closer to God, not go away from God. He rejected even his guru, and he submitted everything to Krishna. So Maharaj Parikshit will be like Bali Maharaj in patience. He will not get agitated. And then he was also compared to Prahlad Maharaj. And Prabhupada gives a brief history of Prahlad Maharaj, and that he was also an authority of devotional service to the Supreme Lord, because he had his father killed by Lord Narasimhadev, setting the example that even a father should be removed from the path of devotional service if such a father happens to be an obstacle, Prabhupada writes. There should be no impediments for bhakti. No material element should stop us from worshipping Krishna. It doesn't mean that we become fanatics, but the point is we should accept what is favorable for bhakti and reject what is unfavorable for bhakti. That is the principle that Prabhupada is teaching us, that no matter who is coming on our way, our path towards bhakti should never get impedimented. That is the principle that we have to take. Doesn't mean that we go and keep rejecting everyone in our family and everything. Outwardly, we should be how much ever nice we can, but inwardly we should try to always march towards Krishna. That is the principle that Maharaj Parikshit is teaching here by following the footsteps of Prahlad Maharaj. And then this child will be the father of kings, who will be like the sages. For world peace and for the sake of religion, he will be the chastiser of the upstart. So Prabhupada writes, the wisest man in the world is a devotee of the Lord. So that is why Krishna wanted his devotees to rule the earth. Right? Unless, therefore, the king or the head of the state is the wisest man, he cannot control all types of wise men, Prabhupada writes. Unless a person, the head of the state, is a wise person, he cannot control. There are some wise persons in this world who are ruling some different parts of the world. Many of us know which part of the country that we are talking about. So they are, because they're a little bit wise and a little bit pious, they are able to implement certain things within the country so that the prajas can live peacefully. And then in text 27, after hearing about his death, which will be caused by the bite of the snake bird sent by the son of Brahmana, he will get himself freed from all material attachment and surrender onto the personality of Godhead. Everything is predicted. Maharaj Parikshit will be cursed by a Brahmana boy, and then he will also surrender by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam onto the Supreme Lord. So Prabhupada writes, very important point, devotional service to the Lord while existing in the material world is a way to practice one's transcendental relation with the Lord. See, whatever bhakti we are doing, we often hear, oh, what is our goal in life? To establish a relationship with Krishna. But Prabhupada is writing, whatever bhakti we are practicing while existing in this material world is what we are going to do when we don't know when we enter into the spiritual world. It is a practice that we are doing here. The same thing will be done in the spiritual world, nothing different if you are following the acharyas. But Prabhupada writes, when it is matured, one gets completely freed from all material attachment and becomes competent to go back home, back to God. So it is a gradual process. Bhakti is a gradual process. Unless and until we are matured in bhakti, we cannot enter the spiritual kingdom. Since he was always protected by the Lord, Maharaj Parikshit, he could have avoided the effect of the curse of the Brahmana. He could have, Maharaj Parikshit, because he saw Krishna in the womb of his mother. He could have avoided the curse, but he never took undue advantage for nothing. Because Srimad Bhagavatam had to be spoken. So he was a surrendered soul of Krishna. Krishna, if you want me to be bitten by a snake, let it be so. This is a surrendered devotee. That is why Bhagavatam says, to find a surrendered devotee on this planet is very rare. And if we find such a surrendered devotee, we have to surrender to that devotee. That is the principle. And then in text 28, after inquiring about proper self-knowledge from the son of Vyasadeva, who will be great philosopher, he will renounce all material attachment and achieve life of fearlessness. So how do we become fearless? By accepting the instructions of a guru. Indirect meaning. Because Prabhupada writes, without self-realization, philosophy is dry speculation or waste of time or energy. It is not a theoretical business of studying Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita. That's why Srimad Bhagavatam itself says we can understand Bhagavatam only from a guru, a self-realized guru. Otherwise, we cannot understand Bhagavatam. It will be just reading stories, page after page after page. I can quote many stories, I can quote many things, but it is all dry. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita mentions that all my life I was eating dry oil cakes. But only by the mercy of Gopinath Acharya, I got the association of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and I was able to taste the essence of bhakti. Otherwise, it is all dry. By hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, one can get free from material attachment and enter into the kingdom of fearlessness. Prabhupada writes. How do we become fearless? By hearing Srimad Bhagavatam from a self-realized soul. That's how we become fearless. Fearless means not kicking everybody around us, but fearless means even in crunch situations, we're able to maintain the patience that Maharaj Parikshit is having here throughout his life. Many points, we are already over time. Text 29. Thus, those who are expert in astrological knowledge in the performance of birth ceremony instructed King Yudhishthira about the future history of the child. So everything is predicted, right? So Prabhupada writes in elaborate in the purport that such section of people is also needed in the society, because they are called Jataka Vipras. They are also Brahmanas, but they are not the Brahmanas of the highest order of practicing bhakti. Their duty in the society is to see horoscopes and predict the future of the child. And Prabhupada writes, such people need to be protected in the society, and the government has to actually give them remuneration so that they can peacefully perform their duty. There are such Jataka Vipras in today's society who are doing this, not for business, but they are actually doing this. Prabhupada writes such things later in the Bhagavatam also. And in text 30, why Maharaj Parikshit was given the name as Parikshit? Because he was an examiner. Even within the womb of his mother Uttara, Krishna came and gave darshan to him, but then Krishna vanished. And then since then, Maharaj Parikshit has been searching for Krishna within his mother's womb, and as well as coming out of his mother's womb. Maharaj Parikshit was searching for his dear Lord Krishna. That is why he was given the name Parikshit, meaning examiner. So Prabhupada writes, Maharaj Parikshit was always engaged in devotional service of the Lord by remembrance, by smaranam. How did he get smaranam? Because he saw Krishna. And we can also see Krishna through the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam. If we hear Srimad Bhagavatam, like how Prabhupada is telling us. And then Prabhupada also quotes, similarly, just like how Maharaj Parikshit could have this experience, Prabhupada quotes Srila Jiva Goswami, that every child, if given an impression of Krishna from his very childhood, certainly becomes a great devotee of the Lord like Maharaj Parikshit. See, this is Prabhupada saying certainly, so we should not take it cheaply. Every devotee child should be given an opportunity to hear about Krishna from the very childhood. We may not see them become great devotees now, but who knows when they may become wonderful devotees when they grow up. And then in text 31, as the moon in its waxing fortnight develops day after day, so the royal prince Parikshit very soon developed luxuriantly under the care and full facilities of his guardian grandfathers. And later is not much purport. Just at the time, King Yudhishthira was considering performing a horse sacrifice. He wanted to perform horse sacrifice to get freed from the sins, because the battlefield of Kurukshetra, many were killed. So he wanted to get rid of the sins, because this was an instruction given by Bhishma Dev in the 9th chapter. So he's trying to follow that instruction. So understanding the hearty wishes of the king, his brothers, because they didn't have enough resources. All the resources were used in Kurukshetra war. So they had only a little bit of wealth to actually perform sacrifice, Ashwamedha Yajna sacrifice. So his brothers, the Pandavas, on the advice of Krishna, there was a king who lived long back, King Maruta, he had a lot of wealth in the form of gold. But the Brahmanas didn't want to take it. See, this is the nature of true Brahmana, is they are least interested in wealth. A true Brahmana will never be interested in wealth. See, you see, there, Prabhupada writes in the purport, King Maruta had left behind. It seems that those areas are still existing in Himalayan mountains, somewhere in Himalayan mountains. Probably we cannot perceive with our material eyes. Prabhupada writes there are still places of peaks of mountain, golden mountains that the king had left. And only Krishna knew about it. And he told the Pandavas to take some gold and use it for this purpose. See, not for their own sense gratification, the Pandavas are using. They are using it for some good cause. So Prabhupada writes in the purport, in this age, all kinds of sacrifices are forbidden, but we cannot perform such sacrifices. Our only sacrifice is Nam Sankirtan, chanting congregationally, Sankirtan Yajna. By those riches, the king could procure the ingredients for 3 horse sacrifices, and he performed horse sacrifice. Yeah. Okay, we don't have much time. And then in text 35, Lord Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, being invited to the sacrifice, he made sure that proper Brahmanas were actually performing the sacrifice. Prabhupada expands on the purport that simply by taking birth in the family of a Brahmana, one does not become a Brahmana just to perform some yajna. That yajna is not perfect. One has to be twice born to become a Brahmana. How twice born? By properly first getting trained and initiated by a bona fide Acharya. That's how one becomes an actual twice born Brahmana. And then one becomes qualified to perform sacrifices. And Krishna made sure that such twice born Brahmanas were present in Maharaj Yudhishthira's sacrificial ceremony, and then he left. O Saunaka, thereafter the Lord, having bade farewell to King Yudhishthira, Draupadi and other relatives, started for the city of Dwaraka, accompanied by Arjuna and other members of the Yadu dynasty. So we complete this chapter, and then we will move to chapter 13 from tomorrow. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Gaur. Offering respectful obeisances to all the Vaishnavas. Vancha kalpa tarubhyashta kripa sindhubhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Antakoti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Hare
Nice.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.